Morning, everybody. I wanted to invite you back to another episode of the Robnett Real Estate Rundown. With me today is Paul Fleming, and Paul is a member of the Boise Metro Chamber of Commerce and is in their marketing department. And I just wanted to have Paul on our show because, as everybody knows right now, everybody seems to be reaching out into their community because of what's going on with this coronavirus, and I think it's awesome. And I had the pleasure of getting together with Paul before this all started, before the madness happened and people began to do this self-distancing. And what really impressed me was, as all this was unfolding, Paul's call is to community action. Paul's call is to being a part of a city as a business leader, as an employer, as a person that can help guide the city. And I just really saw that plays into exactly what everybody is doing right now with their looking out for the elderly, with being responsible for your neighbor, all of the things that we're seeing happen because of this coronavirus. And I really want to thank you, Paul, for coming onto the show. I wanted to take a minute and hear, who is Paul Fleming? So tell us about yourself.
Hi, Shannon. Thanks for the time. This is an opportunity for me to learn some new technology as well as connect with you and others through this new technology. So thanks for helping me find the courage to learn some new stuff.
Well, we're glad
old dog, new tricks here. Yeah, so hey, I'm Paul Fleming. I'm from Washington originally. I moved to Idaho in the early 90s to run on the track and cross country programs at Boise State University. I spent about 15 years with Albertsons, 5 years with the beverage company, and I sold beer and wine and groceries for about 20 years. I worked at the 16th and State Albertsons store, and I sold beer and wine for the military.
For those of you that don't know, that was the very original site that Joe Albertsons ever built, was at 16th and State. So,
yep. I was a can stacker.
Did
you work extraordinaire.
Did you work in that old building, or did you work in the new one when they replaced it?
Well, I started in '94, so it was the new new building that moved back off the block.
Sure. Wow, that's great. That's great.
I never did get to, but his wife came in. Catherine came in, and I'll never forget the time she put her hand on my shoulder when I was down stocking Campbell's soup at the bottom shelf, and she's like, "Keep up the good work, kid." And I had no idea who she was. I went up and asked Melanie Medford, the supervisor at the time at the front end, and I go, "Who was that lady?" She's like, "That was Catherine Albertson." And so
wow. That's
the type of people that I grew up with in the industry, was those folks that made a huge impact on this community.
Right. No, and they were some cornerstones. They still are.
So kind of going on. Absolutely. And they still support this community. They've got the old band is back.
Yeah.
I hear they're trying to go public. And that's where I shop. That's where I still bleed blue, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The time spent in the grocery business and the food and beverage industry helped me learn about people, helped me meet new people. So it was a good transition into my current occupation here, which I'm starting my 7th year with the Chamber. Before I started with the Chamber, I didn't really have an idea about the value. And as time goes on, and that's what it is, it takes time to build relationships in a community. I've learned why chambers are important across the globe. Chambers convene and gather people and thought leaders to enhance the communities that they're in. And I'm a firm believer that that's what it takes as a community. In Boise, for that matter, the community was enhanced back with business owners back in the late 80s, right?
Right.
It was Penny. It was folks like the Morrison Knutsons, the Boise Cascades, the Albertsons. Those are the organizations, the Simplots, right?
Yes.
And I'm missing a few or many.
Well, of course, but you are very correct that when those community leaders came together, and they really entrenched in us. I mean, we've always had an exceptional college for our size. We've had the performing arts thanks to the Morrison Center and the Morrison Knudsen Foundation that put that together. We've had those things. Micron Technologies was created by a couple of groups, Simplot being part of that group, but also Yonkis, who founded that really incubator company that then has gone on to become a global brand as well. And all of that came from leaders in the community that were more concerned about the community, or as concerned, shall we say, about the community as they were about jobs and technology and bringing new industry forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I learned about the chamber and its values, it's really resonated with me. Here's the three organizations now under one umbrella. So we've got the chamber, its business advocacy, its leadership programs, its networking opportunities, its elevated events and connections. And then we have the Convention and Visitors Bureau that are recruiting conferences and conventions to come to our area to fill up the hotels. And I know it's hard to talk about right now since all those hoteliers and the folks in that industry are just, it is an awful time for them.
However, though, Paul, you know, I think it's a great time to highlight where would they have been had there not been the chambers that were working on their behalf this whole time. I mean, when you really look at it, we are on a hiatus, I guess I would call it, because we've got a never before in history seen event. And whether you agree with it or disagree, that's not what we're going to talk about. But we've got a never before seen in history event. And yet, when this passes, all of the work of the chambers will all still be there again. And while those businesses struggle currently, the business is built on both sides. And that resilience will come back, but it wouldn't even probably be there to the degree that it is without your branch of the chamber being involved.
Absolutely. And for those out there that are listening as well, the chamber can help. If you have got folks in the hospitality industry that are laid off and are looking for work, there's another opportunity for the chamber to help you connect with different businesses that are hiring. We've got our Costco's, we've got our Albertsons, we've got our Wincos that are hiring, we've got our cleaning companies out there that are looking for additional help right now. So that's just one little thing that we can help with on the labor and workforce.
Yeah.
And then continuing on with another pillar of the chamber is the economic development partnership called BVEP. And it's Boise Valley Economic Partnership. And what they're doing is putting together data about demographics, about workforce, about areas of investment, right? They're recruiting companies and offering companies outside our area and companies inside our area a chance to grow. There was a tax reimbursement incentive passed through legislation back in the summer of 2014 that offered some incentives for businesses that are looking at coming here or expanding here. And that has been a game changer for the area and the state for that matter.
Right. So basically, you guys are trying to do what the advertising company did for Juan Valdez and Mexico's avocados, right?
That's right.
You guys are trying to create that picture that attracts businesses, that lets them know about the incentives or the tax benefits of working and being a part of a business here in Idaho. Also about, you're basically courting those businesses to bring them in way before developers and multifamily people see them, way before the industrial people are trying to secure a lease with them. They're not always here just because of the availability of space. They're here because they see the tax benefits and they see the other things and the marketing that you guys have put into attracting them.
Absolutely. And just to echo that marketing piece, right? We're kind of just happy to be known as Idaho instead of mistaken for Iowa, you know? So it's important. You know, the Convention and Visitors Bureau does a great job of highlighting the amenities and the benefits of working and living here. And, you know, we're so close to recreation. We've got a great greenbelt system. Our city's amazing. the businesses that are here are community minded, and everybody, the truth is about Boise is that folks are nice, and you can see that now with just wherever you live, your neighbors, the businesses that you visit. The amenities are shouted out from the Convention and Visitors Bureau, as well as the work that BVEP does to attract companies and offer them demographic information about population growth. They do all the hard work for you, and I would encourage people to check out their website and BVEP, BVEP.org, and go through their menu. Come to a stakeholder event, learn what they're doing.
Yeah, well, and Paul, that was unfortunately, I'm going to admit to my listeners here a little bit of my ignorance to what that really was, because I knew that there was committees out there that were trying to attract jobs, but I didn't really understand to the extent that you guys really marketed to business leaders, to thought leaders about what we have to offer. The Micron's donation to the college and the school of that we've got there, the college that we have, the workforce that we have, the education levels that we have, all of those things that I'm not out there advertising as a developer or as a multifamily syndicator. I'm able to focus on what I do, but I can be a part of that process with you. And through that, I can be involved with making my community better, which ultimately strengthens my job position in the marketplace, because I'm able to come together and talk about things that affect multifamily or things that affect industrial space well before you guys are advertising for it.
Absolutely. As I learn more and more about the organizations, especially ours, the Chamber, the CVB, and BVEP, this apparent to me. So you talked about workforce. Heartland RV, for example, out in Nampa, a recreational vehicle manufacturer, had over 400 applicants for its 50 positions in the first round, right? So we have the workforce, and I think that the companies looking at coming to Idaho or existing companies looking to hire, we have talent, we have good people. We just want to help them workforce, and that's something that BVEP does on a weekly basis. The Convention and Visitors Bureau, kind of going back to what they've been marketing and advertising for. I guess even 4 years ago, we couldn't take a convention of over 1,000 people at the Boise Center. We couldn't house it, right? And so through the work with the Chamber, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, the Greater Boise Auditorium District, those folks in the Urban Renewal District, and the city made some great efforts to enhance and create these new places to put people, to feed people. The whole expansion of the Grove Plaza and the Boise Center, the expansion of the computer science department for Boise State University, went into the Clearwater Analytics building. And that was a big Gardner development project back in I think it was 2015. Yeah. What an amazing project. I call that the smart growth of our community, where it's not only enhancing the convention center, but the community as a whole. Well, and really put us on the map.
Yeah, and then you take an event like this one where the coronavirus really showed us. I saw something funny the other day that said we needed a virus to show us which meetings could have been an email, right? But even this technology with Zoom and with Skype and the whole podcasting thing that's coming about, we're really seeing where we can decentralize and still create awesome job growth. And so now I look at it from the point of view that the economic development that we've had, the conventions that we've had, all these people came and saw what a great place Idaho is during their last convention, during the last time that they were in town learning about this or joining us for this. And now when the opportunity comes for them to relocate because their job becomes more and more mobile in the global economy that we have, they know where they want to move back to. They know where they want to join, where they want to settle their families, where they want to raise people. And so while we don't really think of the chamber as a development tool, it really is crucial because it's our first line of advertising as developers. And I would reach out to the listeners and say, if you're not involved with a chamber or you don't have a strong chamber where you're at, be careful. Be aware that a strong chamber promoting strong growth in your town, in your city, is going to bring jobs, is going to bring employers, is going to bring travel and entertainment, and those people are going to want to come back to your place of business, to your place of where you live. But without a good, strong chamber, you're not going to get any new people coming to town to check you out.
Right. I agree. And the chamber's mission is to enhance this community, its economic development, its way of life. We do that by gathering thought leaders to make good decisions and help us enhance our education and workforce development.
Right.
We have a great nonprofit sector here in the state of Idaho.
We really do.
That we connect. Our transportation folks gather and convene and discuss on better ways of getting people moved around here. That's the type of different industries that we connect
Right.
and communicate with.
Well, and when you have, there's always we always hear the public-private partnership,
Absolutely.
There's the public where, we've got our elected officials, we've got, the cities, the counties, and they're involving, community growth plans. They're doing comp plans. They're trying to make the best of everything, develop the roadways where they feel that it should be. But beyond that, you have to get the public involved. You have to get the private sector involved. You have to get the developers involved so that everybody is trying to grow the same direction. One of the things that we're seeing that people are struggling with now after coming out of the recession is just enough funds to develop the city appropriately to where the growth is going, to where you've got, roadways that need to be built, but instead of going way far out of town and taking all of the funds to take the roads to them, if you're developing in a growth pattern where you're working with the cities, you're working with the counties, you're working with that, you're creating more of an infill type of a project where you're bringing it to where the services and goods already are.
Absolutely.
And that's going to come through a strong chamber that's going to make those opportunities available, not necessarily make the opportunity available, but highlight that opportunity and bring those opportunities together with people that can partner, that can bring those opportunities to life. And so I really see that, Paul, the work that you guys are doing at the chamber, for the first time, honestly, I see how vital that is to me. And as I move forward and I look out into other cities and other towns that we're going to do developments in, one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to tap the chamber, because I'm going to be able to, I've been in Idaho here for 40 years. I know this town very well. But if I were to go to, let's say I wanted to go to Umatilla, or I wanted to go to Portland, or I wanted to go somewhere, I could tap the chamber and I could find out what their growth plan is. I could find out what they envision, and I could learn the lay of the town and figure out where they want the growth. And maybe I'm trying to bring a sector in that they don't want or that they have plenty of. This would be a great way for professionals and developers and people in the multifamily and industrial space, especially, to see what the town is looking for, because those are the quickest ways to add jobs, is the industrial that works into the office, that brings the growth. And if at the time that you're bringing the growth, the chamber has the horsepower to back up the rest of it, because you still got goods and services. You got to feed the people. You got to make sure they got restaurants to go to, and if all of that is in sync, then you're bringing growth into an area, into a town that can handle what you're bringing to them.
Well, and you're connected quickly to the folks that are the people you need to connect with.
Right. The movers and the shakers.
Yeah, it's the bottom line. It's the elevated connections. It's the relationship building opportunities. And when you are ready to go, and if they're ready to, they know who you are when they need you.
Right. And vice versa.
Correct.
And vice versa. Yeah. And
Correct.
so that's something that I didn't, because I've always done my own thing, and I've kind of just stayed, where I do my thing. And because I've known this town, I've been able to navigate on my own without needing help. But as the projects that I'm working on get bigger, as the town gets bigger, my main focus the last couple of years has been in Meridian, and that town has grown from 70,000 to 120,000 people in a course of 5 years, and it's busting at the seams. And instead of trying to put a development where it's more taxing to the city, I can put it where it's more favorable by being a part of the chamber and figuring out where that's at.
Well, here's an example, Shannon, as well. Let's say, your comment on being here for 40 years. So there's a caterer in town that's been here for 30 years, and they are well known. But with all the growth and the new people coming to town, now is a better time to gain that additional exposure. Correct. And to tell your story again to the newcomers, because they don't know that you've been here 30 years.
Right.
So that's just one example of why it's important to stay involved.
Yeah. No, and that makes a lot of sense. The other thing too that I also see with being involved with the chamber is it gives you an opportunity to get that story out in a relevant way, because you're involved in the community. So I'm not trying to tell my story of the industrial space that I have for rent to the board of grocers or to somebody else. I'm there telling my story to the community leaders that are saying, hey, this is who's coming into town. These are the guys that are looking for that kind of space. And you're really plugging yourself in. While realtors are a great necessity and they provide a great service, a lot of times you can just get the groundswell coming in the door before it's even really known by being a part of a chamber.
Absolutely. Picking a committee or an advisory board or a council that you're passionate about and getting plugged in, you'll often find yourselves meeting new people that you didn't know you would engage with. I went to a human resources conference a few weeks ago, and I was the only guy in the room, and it really made an impact on me. I got to sharpen my saw on an industry and a profession that I don't really spend any time in, and I also got to meet new people as well.
Yeah. Well, and it's become very, very, very evident in the last couple of weeks, the human side of the human resources, right? I mean, as we've seen what's happened with the grocery stores, and we've seen, the great toilet paper debacle of 2020, but then you forget the human behind the truck drivers, in the cab of the truck. You forget, the people stocking the shelves at the grocery store. You forget, that human element. And that's part of the community,
Absolutely.
And really bringing that together and being able to connect on all those levels, I think is something that I'm going to say again, I truly overlooked, and I'm regretful that I did, because I see where my community could have used my help, and I could have gotten help from my community years ago.
And that's where the passion comes in it for me. And that's why I'm with the chamber world now. Working in the grocery industry, right? You see all the thousands and thousands of people coming in. You see the vendors coming in and delivering. You treat those folks the same way you treat the entire demographic of people coming into that store. I also coach Little League baseball, right? I feel that it's so important to give these kids an opportunity to fail early and fail often, so that they can react to failure in a positive way.
Right.
And I feel that if citizens can drive down to their youngest, the next leaders, and give them opportunities to learn, succeed, fail, I think it's going to make a big difference when they get older on how to deal with with things that don't go their way all the time.
Well, and Paul, you have an interesting story with your interaction with Mrs. Albertson. I don't know anybody else that gave you a better example of going from the top down and reaching out to the community and saying, sir, young man, you're doing a noble service, and we need people like you in our community, because without you, there's not all the success that came before or after. And so, Paul, I really appreciate you taking the time to show me and my listeners more what the chamber can do for them. So often we look at it and go, well, we don't want to be a member of the chamber because of the time commitment it's going to take from us. But I really appreciate you taking the time to enlighten me and hopefully others as to what the chamber really offers to us as developers and as multifamily industrial landlords. And so, Paul, I'm gonna close this out. Thank you for your time. I'm gonna get your email address. Tell us how people can get a hold of you, and we'll get that posted.
Absolutely. All of our events are postponed currently for an undetermined amount of time, as with everything else.
Right.
But when we get ramped back up, we're going to have some great programs, and we'll continue the great connections that you've known in the past. To get a hold of me, it's really easy. It's P. Fleming. P is the first letter in my first name, Paul Fleming, Fleming, just one M, at boisechamber.org. Feel free to give me a call on my personal cell, 208-695-5540.
And the great news, boys and girls, you can zoom in on the picture and you can see Paul Fleming's name tag. So if you didn't hear him spell it, what a great chamber member. He's advertising all through this segment. You can see his name. So, Paul, I really want to thank you for joining us on the show and enlightening us as to what we can do for our community. I want to close out this Friday segment by telling everybody thank you for listening. I really want you guys to go out, spend the weekend with the news off and your head where it should be, with your families, with your friends, and spend time focusing on your community so that we can all come back together Monday morning with more solutions, rested and ready to go. Thanks again, Paul.
Support your local businesses.
Absolutely.
Go dine out, take out, tip as you would normally. Yes, Shannon, great closing remarks. Really
all right, we'll talk to you soon, Paul.